Finishing the war today. Due tomorrow. Test Wednesday. Over module 20B. Okay. Review sheet is up. If you want to take a look at it, I'll have copies for you on tomorrow. Oh yeah, you got that done? Can you guys do that? The assignment? You know that? You freaking did that. Let me get it. Anybody else?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll get you a copy. Or we can just take somebody that I gave a copy to instead of wasting the tree.
Who did do it? You can take one. Eric?
Is Eric have one? I got one right. Now, if you really want to do it, tomorrow, if you really want to do it, and you didn't do it, you turned in late for 18 out of 20. Oh yeah, good job, Grace. Okay. I just assume the rest of you are happy with your grades the way they are. What are your eyes bothering you? Okay, starting over. I apologize to my viewers. All right, so here's the thing. Some of the stuff that I'm going to explain to you today is going to come over video. Okay, I've got some pretty good videos to show you, starting with this kamikaze. Okay, so you guys remember, we are trying to take, here's the Philippines, right? We're trying to take Iwo Jima and Okinawa, okay, which are up here. So February to March of 45, April to July, okay? As we get closer and closer to Japan, we are bombing them with our B-29 super fortresses every day. Hundreds of bombers, thousands of bombers. We're bombing Tokyo. We're bombing Kobe. All these cities we're bombing, trying to get the Japanese to quit so we don't have to invade. Now, while we're fighting on these two islands, between the two of them, we're going to lose 8,000 Marines on Iwo Jima and 12,000 servicemen on Okinawa. Okay? Then the Japanese begin to get desperate. So they're going to start launching aircraft against our Navy. We've got 120,000 soldiers on Okinawa. They want to destroy our supply ships that are bringing in supplies for these men. So they're going to start flying their planes into our ships. These are really hard to stop. You understand? You can shoot at them, but you got to get them far enough away. If they get on top of you and they're headed right at your ship, it's hard to stop them. So, guys, over the next month or so, as the video will talk about, for 2,000 Japanese kamikaze planes will be flown into our ships. Now, all of them will make contact, but about 5,000 sailors will die as a result, okay? So between these three battles, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and the kamikaze attacks, you're looking at 25,000 Americans killed, double that or more and wounded, okay? So as we start to make plans to invade Japan, the video will talk about how many troops they think we might need and what the casualty rates will be, okay? I just can't show you the video and record this, so I'm kind of talking about some of this. So that takes us to the next slide, which deals with the atomic bomb, okay? And so we'll talk about this, and then I'm going to show you a couple more videos, okay? And then, for all intents and purposes, we're done. Unless you guys have any questions you want to ask about this, okay? All right, so the word atom, you guys know for a long time, the atom we thought was the smallest particle there was. And then we got things called these microscopes that said, oh, there's actually a nucleus in that atom, and there's electrons and neutrons, and they do different things. And then you can actually dissect those as well. Yes, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, so going back to the Greek, the word atom means unbreakable. But scientists begin to think that they could actually split an atom among those scientists was, of course, Einstein. And then this guy, Enrico Fermi, was actually the first person to do it. Have you heard this name before? Fermi? Okay. He did this at the University of Chicago in a laboratory underneath the football field. Okay. Now, depending on the type of atom that you actually split, you're going to get a different reaction. And so because smart people are smart, they can figure out that certain types of elements, if you break those atoms, you might get a violent chain reaction, i.e. uranium, i.e. a specific type of uranium. I think it's 235, and it has to be highly enriched. And so you could get a massive chain reaction from that. So I told you about the letter that Einstein wrote to Roosevelt in 1939. By 1942, we're going to invest $2 billion in the desert outside of Los Alamos, New Mexico. And we're going to try and get the best scientists, mathematicians, physicists in the country, bring them to the desert and say, hey, this has been theorized. Now see if you can make it happen. This, of course, is the Manhattan Project, yes? How many of you guys saw Oppenheimer? Okay. How's it going? That's pretty good. A little wonky. I might be able to work with that. Okay. Thank you. It's a start. All right. So, they test the first one on July 16th, 1945. Now, at this time, President Truman is in Germany. Remember, Germany's been defeated. So he's meeting with Stalin. Stalin made his way over to Germany. I know he was afraid to fly, but he made his way over to Germany, and so does Churchill. So the three of them are meeting at what's called the Potsdam Conference. It's at the Potsdam Conference that they agreed of an unconditional surrender of Japan. While Truman's at this conference, we test the bomb. This is a time-lapse photo of the first bomb in the desert. Okay? Truman is told of this news. And he's automatically, he's kind of pepped up. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, we may have the winning weapon. This could end the war. Does he tell Churchill that we've successfully detonated this weapon? No. Does he tell Stalin? No. How long will it take till Stalin finds out? Not very long, because he's got spies. Okay, so you can see kind of the distrust here. We're not telling our allies everything. You know, like we have a chance to end this. Truman didn't tell him. Okay, so about 10 days later, we begin to warn the Japanese. Now, guys, in order to get these bombs to the Pacific, how are you going to get them there? You know, put them on a plane and fly them to the Pacific? Sounds kind of scary, risky to me, but they're going to put them on ships. One of the ships carrying this bomb is called the USS Indianapolis. You guys heard about the USS Indianapolis? Okay, so it's top secret. So usually when you have a destroyer like the Indianapolis, it's accompanied by other ships. They go in a group, a fleet. Okay? The captain of the Indianapolis is told, you're going solo, and we need you to take your cargo. They don't tell them what's in the ship. You need to take your cargo to Tinian Island in the Pacific. So they go solo. They're actually able to get there, deliver the bomb. It's in a big crate. They can't see it. Okay. When they leave Tinian Island, again, they are solo. So nobody knows where they are. It's a top secret mission. So the captain of the Indianapolis, they're leaving Tinian Island, going to rendezvous with the rest of the fleet. Well, when you're in submarine-infested waters, you're supposed to serpentine, zigzag, okay? Well, the captain of Indianapolis didn't do that. He thought he was safe. Japanese submarines sunk the Indianapolis. Nobody knew they were sunk. So they're all by themselves in the Pacific in shark-infested waters. So the crew goes into the water. Shark attack. So now there's blood in the water. More than 100 of the sailors will die from shark attack. Okay, and nobody knows today until they don't show up where they're supposed to be. Then they go looking for them. Okay, by then it's too late. Now the captain does survive, as do many, and he is put on trial. Just blame the captain of the ship. Okay, he is convicted, sent to prison, where he will kill himself. Okay, there's a movie on this called USS Indianapolis, the Indianapolis, and of course the captain is played by Nicolas Cage. He's in every movie. Okay, I will tell you this: the movie is not very good. Okay? I mean, I've watched it, and I'm like, oh, cool, this should be good. All right, so we warned the Japanese. Now, guys, remember I told you we are bombing their cities already with these B-29s. Okay. Generally, what we do before we will bomb the cities is we will drop leaflets to tell the people, the civilians in the cities, to leave, to get out. Israel does this right now. They're fighting that war in the Gaza Strip. If they're going to blow up a building, they drop leaflets on it. And they say, look, you need to leave because we're about to destroy this. Okay? We warned the Japanese that they would face lightning from the sky unlike they've ever seen before. But they don't know what we're talking about, obviously. Nobody knows what we're talking about. So the Japanese reject the Potsdam Declaration. And so on August 6th, we dropped the first bomb on Hiroshima. Okay. 3 days go by. Nothing from the Japanese. So we dropped the second bomb. Now, the first bomb was dropped by a plane called the Enola Gay. Okay. The pilots get to name the planes. Okay. Captain Tibbets, his mother's name was Enola Gay. So he named the plane after his mom. The second plane was called Boxcar. All right. So the first plane was carrying this bomb, which was nicknamed Little Boy. And the second plane was carrying this bomb, nicknamed Fat Man. This is a uranium bomb. This one is a plutonium bomb. They use uranium, but it's a man-made element. Okay. So the first bomb, and I'll give you some numbers on people killed and so forth here in a second. Okay. But Nagasaki was not the target on the 9th. The first target that the boxcar went to was shrouded with cloud cover. The secondary target, cloud cover. They had enough fuel to get to Nagasaki, which was the third target that day. And the clouds split. You could see it. There's a bridge in the city center. That was the target. Okay. And so they dropped the second bomb on Nagasaki. So if you talk about how weather changes history, weather changed history that day. A different city was supposed to be hit. I don't know the name of it. Okay. Both of these cities are industrial centers. They're war machine making cities. Okay. They've got tank factories, aircraft factories, munitions factories in both of these cities. Okay. If we're going for the sheer number of killing civilians, we would not have attacked these cities. Okay. Although they were large cities. Okay. I think Hiroshima had 326,000 people, about the size of Wichita, living in Hiroshima. Nagasaki was somewhat smaller, and also in a valley. So, as I describe these bombs, you'll notice there's going to be pretty stark differences to the amount of damage done between the two. You can pull this up. Trusted World War II book here. I'm just going to read to you a little bit from this, if that's all right. Is that all right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to. Okay. In an effort to calculate the dimensions of the bomb's power, a group of Japanese scientists probed through the ruins days afterward. They discovered that there were air bursts that produced pressures that matched the sustained thrust of a tidal wave, knocking down all but the strongest buildings of concrete and steel. Heat measured in the thousands of degrees Fahrenheit and traveling at the speed of light had set fire to wooden structures that were more than a mile from ground zero, the hypocenter above each where the bomb exploded. So guys, you don't want this bomb to actually hit the ground and explode. You want it to explode above the ground for maximum effect. If it hits the ground, a lot of that pressure is going to just hit the earth, okay? Where if it's above, like say 500 feet above, you get the maximum effect, okay? So I know in some of the atomic explosions over the, that time period, they would use parachutes on the bombs so that they wouldn't drop at a high rate of speed, and they could set it to go off at a certain altitude, okay? Now, so this is kind of how it works. In Hiroshima, a thermal wave swept out over the city, setting alight homes in its path. So if you ever watched video of this, and YouTube is great for this, but you can watch like trees will bend. Okay, so the bomb hits, the trees bend this way, and then they get sucked back in this way. So this thermal wave of fire goes out. Because of the oxygen that it consumes, it sucks right back in, and that's what creates the mushroom cloud. Okay, any type of explosion you do, you'll see that type of mushroom cloud. This is just on a much larger scale. Okay. Into the vacuum created by its passing roared hurricane-like winds, fanning a firestorm that raged for hours. In all, 62,000 of Hiroshima's 90,000 buildings were destroyed. In Nagasaki, the hills separating the industrial quarter from the rest of the city blocked the thermal wave, and no firestorm followed. Even so, a wave of heat instantly ignited wooden buildings within 2 miles of the hypocenter, and 11,500 of the city's 52,000 residents burned to the ground. Exactly how many people died as a direct result of the atomic bomb has never been determined with strict accuracy. Initial figures at Hiroshima, 68,000 dead, 72,000 wounded. Later estimates raised the death count to 140,000. Okay. At Nagasaki, initial 37,500 dead, 26,000 wounded. By December, they raised the death count at Nagasaki to 70,000. So on the higher end here, guys, you're looking at about 210,000. Now, that doesn't tell the whole story, obviously. You guys have heard of radiation poisoning. I don't know if you've heard of this. Okay, so guys, you can literally trace cancer rates in the United States based on, guys, we detonated several bombs in the desert over the years, and you can trace where the wind blew higher cancer rates in the United States. Okay, there have been more than 200 atomic or nuclear explosions in the Earth's atmosphere since July of 1945. Okay, which is crazy. I mean, and we started doing them underground. We started doing them underwater to test them. Guys, we haven't tested an atomic weapon in a long time in this country. We have what's called a nuclear test ban treaty. Okay, we can simulate them with computers today. So we don't need to test them in the atmosphere. Okay, the last bomb to explode on the planet was underground in North Korea. Okay, where they tested them underground, right, inside of a mountain. All right. Pakistan and India, we're talking in the last 25 years, have detonated underground as well. Okay, but nothing in the Earth's atmosphere in the last 30 years. Prior to that, quite a few. Like I said, about 200. Right, which, yeah, it's a lot of radiation. So for the Japanese people, the soil contamination, obviously the air contamination, which would eventually move on. The water source is contaminated as well. This is going to claim new victims. You know, you think you might have survived the bombs, but then, you know, seemingly healthy people would get sick. Cancer, other problems, internal bleeding, all kinds of things. Okay? So it really scared the Japanese, thinking that, I mean, they actually thought like we used some type of poisonous nerve gas with the weapons or something like that. In reality, it's just the radiation. Okay? So, pretty devastating. But the other end, war's over. Okay? And so, did we save more lives by dropping these bombs? Did we kill more people by dropping them? You can't answer that question. Okay? Because you can only guess. So as the video will talk about, they're talking about a 5 million man force to go into Japan with casualty rates as high as 1 million people. Now, we don't know if that's over exaggerated. It probably is. But we don't know how long the Japanese would have continued to fight and how they would have fought. Okay? So those are questions that Truman had to, you know, he had to work through before he made this decision. Okay? This is the Japanese delegation surrendering on the USS Missouri. It's a huge battleship. You ever watch that movie Battleship, where the aliens came and then they got the battleship out and took care of the aliens? That was the Missouri. Where's Truman from? Missouri. Okay. So this in Tokyo Bay. Okay, the formal surrender, and this is Admiral Nimitz signing the formal surrender. Here's General Douglas MacArthur. You'll hear from him in a little bit. Okay, huge celebrations in America. Okay, that the war was over. I put this picture in here. This is a cruise ship. These are American soldiers on their way home from Europe. Like, they wanted to come home, so they packed them in and brought them home. Okay. This is the after effects of the largest ticker tape parade in American history in New York City. You can see all the confetti. And that's the war. So I'm going to show you two videos, one about the kamikaze attacks and then one about the atomic bomb, and just let it run to the end. And it kind of sums up the war, gives you some statistics and so forth. Okay? So I'm done lecturing now. Until Thursday.